Hi,
Hi, Esme.
how are
Happy
you?
Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you.
So excited that you're able to join us as part of our Back to School Live series here at Goodbeat. We are the only channel that's by parents for parents. And today we're excited to dive in. It's back to school, and we want to dive in talking about what it takes to find a great school. And so we're fortunate to have you as our guest speaker. A little bit of background just on yourself before we dive in. You are a super mom boss, first and foremost, accomplished bilingual journalist, adjunct professor at USC, have worked for the LA Times. You're a journalist at heart, and we are just so honored to have you with us today to give us some insight and share some tips. So before I get started, our topic for today, I sent you a message and I was like, we're going to be talking about finding great schools. And I know this is a topic you have probably touched on quite a bit as a journalist and more importantly, as a mom, choosing good schools. But let's start off. I think my first question for the day is maybe you can describe yourself in 5 words.
Yes, well, I'm a mom. Uh, I'm a journalist, like you said. I think that defines who I am. I am a Latina mom. That's
Yeah.
also a big, you know, thing that defines who I am. Optimistic, an eternal optimistic. And the fifth one will be, I wish I could be a good advocate for kids.
You're an advocate at heart. Love the 5 description. So, how are you doing today? Let me just start there.
Well, it's Friday. It's the first week of school. I just had to pick up with my from my little daughter's school, and I'm a little, it's hot days for some of those who are watching somewhere else. Southern California, it's like the heat. It's been all over the place for over, I don't know, 2 weeks. So I'm finally doing pickup by walking to school. So that's a good thing and a bad thing when the weather is not so favorable. But I am really excited about this first couple days of back to school.
Oh, tell me. So Sophia and your son are both back to school, and I should even say your hubby's a principal, and
Yes,
he's going to school too.
Another thing to add to the mix, right? That I am married to high school principal.
Yeah.
So yes, in my house we breathe and talk about education every day, and it's our topic of conversation because that's what we do for a living, but at the same time because it's something that my husband and I are passionate about.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so my question for you today is, what are your top tips for parents on how to find a good school for their kid? Because it's like matching, right? You have to I imagine it's a combo of different things where it's your neighborhood, it's location, geography, accessibility, but then there's also aspects of like, is it a good match? Do I like the teachers? Is it safe? But I want to hear from you. What are your top tips for a parent who maybe just started school as well and is like having second thoughts about the choice that they make? And they're thinking, hey, what should I be thinking about?
Yeah, honestly, I was just thinking about it earlier before I joined the Instagram live, and I was thinking there shouldn't be so much as some particular tips for everybody. I think the best school for your child isn't necessarily the best school for the entire community, or what the most parents are saying, oh, this is the best school in the neighborhood, but it might not be the best for you and your family. I think the best school is the one that fits your family's situation, circumstances better, and accommodates your needs, and most importantly, where you see your child happy and thriving. So that for me will be like the first thing is, for example, like in my case, I'm very happy. I've been very happy with all the schools that so far my son has been attending. I have a, just for background, I am the mother of a teenager, high schooler, a boy. And I also have a daughter who just started kindergarten. So there's a big gap right there. And I literally live in two different worlds every day. But I've been having a good experience with my son. I've been always very happy with the schools I've been choosing for him. And now with my daughter, she was in preschool, and I tried three different schools, and I think each one improved my expectations as we went into the next one and the next one. And now I'm hoping that the kindergarten, she's in a bilingual program, Spanish bilingual program. So I chose that for her for kindergarten, and I hope I made the right choice. But in the past, what it has helped me have my child thriving in school is having deciding into a school that has a good environment for my child to feel safe, to feel cared for, and not so much about the scores of the school, or the achievements of the school, but mostly like, how is my child feeling in this school environment, especially when they're little, because I think the most important thing for little ones is to feel safe and cared for. The rest, it comes naturally.
And I totally agree. I definitely think that, scores are a little like an x-ray. They don't tell you everything about a school. I will say that I think when you are moving into a new neighborhood, I know when we bought our house in our current neighborhood, one of the first things we looked at was overall just how the school performed, what demographics it had, what programs it offered. It was a magnet program, which brings kids from all over the city. So I think looking at kind of the different data on the school to do an initial assessment is helpful. But when you said you've made the choice already, what other steps do you take? Do you actually go visit the school? How do you know, aside from perhaps talking to your kid and knowing your kid's interest, how to match it or how to match the environment?
Yeah, I think it's very important, starting with the principal, the leader in the school. You always have to engage with the principal. I live with one at home, so I know how important it is to understand the principal's vision for the school, because that's going to dictate everything else, right? So having a little chat by email, or if you're using an app, you try to send a message and engage in some way with the principal. And also, getting to know the teachers, it's important, and reading the website of the school, and they always have a little something to say about their teachers, and kind of, trying to find the teachers that you think will better, match with your kid's personality.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's something that in our countries, I'm from Mexico. I was, raised and educated in Mexico. It's very common. Like, the mom kind of chooses the teacher. Like, I want my child to go with this teacher because I heard wonderful things about this teacher. Here it's different. The system is very different. However, I try to kind of did that principle, to apply that principle that I learned in Mexico, with trying to match my daughter's personality with the teachers, that they were that they had for that grade in preschool. And I was brave enough to have this conversation with the principal and say, I know my daughter was assigned to this classroom, but I was reading the bias of all the other teachers, and I kind of feel like my daughter will thrive better in so-and-so, classroom. And she was like, oh, our teachers are wonderful, credential, but if you feel that, we can do that, because there's room for another student for this particular teacher. So they moved Sophia to that classroom, and it was exactly how I imagined. It was the perfect personality of the teacher and and my daughter, and one of the best teachers I've ever met in my life. Like I don't regret, trying to go beyond, just knowing it's a good school and whatever, but trying to make sure that the teacher it's also the best match.
Yeah, I mean, that's so important, right? I mean, that's doing that kind of advocacy work for your child and not being afraid takes a lot, because it takes a lot of courage to go against kind of what you've been assigned to, and make sure people don't take it personally, which is the other,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? Because it's like you're worried about hurting someone else's feelings, but at the same time, what's at stake is making sure that there's synergy, natural flow for your daughter to have the right learning environment. And just some personalities and environments work differently. So that's really awesome. And I'm glad to hear that that your school was so accommodating, and your principal. But at the end of the day, you don't have to. I always remember doing the advocacy work, used to say to families, you don't have to wait to a teacher conference to actually go speak to the school. You can set an appointment, call the school, you can have that conversation. And now with all the social media, DM, text, apps, it's there. Okay, I have another question for you, Esme. And I know you're a journalist, which I know also means that you're very critical about fact finding, about the sources of information that you rely on and trust. And so, curious to know, what online resources do you or would you recommend, or do you personally use when you're searching for schools or trying to get this information about schools to other parents?
Well, like you said, probably because of my professional background, I go different routes as probably most parents do. But for example, the California dashboard, it's a good source. Um, it's a lot of data there, but it's easy to understand. It's by colors. You type the name of the school district first, then the school, and then the page gives you a report with the colors. If you see a lot of red, that means that it's kind of, you need to be careful about it, because it means that they're not really achieving, the school is not really achieving, while the green is like the highest
Yep.
achievement level. So that for example will tells me, if the school is doing well or not in terms of the scores, and meeting state standards. I think that's the best source that you can go to in California, if you live in California. And also, all schools, school districts, they have on their web pages some links on their past scores, or current scores, or whatever initiatives that they're doing, or awards that they're winning, because this or that school is doing best with English learners, or with math. Remember that not only they measure the scores per se, but also the growth between one year and the other. And that's something that you should value, because that means that the school is really doing something to improve. And not everything is perfect, but if your school can show that they're working towards growing, that's very positive.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you use this resource, but I have, when I do the Google search, I tend to trust and recommend to parents to use Find Great Schools. I like that as a starting point, because they can see a variety of schools in their neighborhood, and get the kind of data you're looking at. But the second best resource, like you said, is to go to the state website. So whether you're in California, it's a California dashboard. If you're in a different state, then go to that school district's website and pull up the data on the school, because all of this information is public information, and that data will give you data on reading levels, testing score. But like you said, there's also other interesting data that's available. Like the other thing I used to look like was teacher attendance, attendance in general at the school. I think one of the data points is the suspension. We just released a video on grading policies by one of our incredible parent influencers who's a teacher and educator and a boss mom like you, and she talked about grading policies. And so all of these, I think, are really critical indicators, and growth, like you said, being a signal of progress that we're looking for, especially when we're taking a holistic view at the school. But nothing at the end of the day is going to be like show up, meet the principal, meet the people, see the school, ask to quietly observe a classroom to see if it's the right fit, teaching style, ask those questions, and that's super key. So final, before we leave, is what are some of the common misconceptions you think parents make when doing the search?
Well, I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, just talking about scores and just, again, relying on other families' opinions of schools. I think
Word about too much.
yeah, which is good because you need to hear from other parents, right? But at the same time, every family has their own situation and their own goals for their kids and their own priorities. And I think you should go about and do your own research on the things that matter to you, on the things that you think they're really going to have an impact on your child's learning and well-being. So I think the misconception of the school that has really high scores is really, it's a guarantee that my child is going to achieve. I think that's a big misconception. Like, just because the school overall has, very high scores and great ratings, it doesn't mean that for my child it's going to be the best environment to learn. And if that's not the best environment for my child, then it's going to affect the learning. And it doesn't matter that the school is one of the top schools if my child it's not performing at the grade they should be performing at. So I think just that, being more mindful of the holistic learning environment, it's something that parents should be more like involved in, finding out what's the best holistic learning environment for their children.
Yep, I hear you. And I hear you saying, look at the hard data on the school, look at outcomes, but don't stop there. Do the other things too. Look at the environment, diversity at the school, meet the people, get to see firsthand imagine your child being there. Take a look at the curriculum. Does it match the interest that your child has, especially if they want to be an artist? Find a school that really meets that match. And then finally, do that top list of key priorities for you. What are you weighing? What are your top 5 things that are most important for you when you're looking to find a great school? And then finally, also talk to people. Hear about other people's opinions and experiences to help also shape and inform. So
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We super appreciate you sharing your tips and your expertise, and excited to hear that your kids are back in school with the right teacher.
Yes.
Excited for the year.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about these topics that are really very important to me and my family, and just to have other parents joining us. And I look forward to reading comments and tips from me as well, because we don't know it all. So we are learning, and we all need each other to do the best for our children's education.
So, absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me.
I invite everyone to follow Good Beat Parents. If you liked what you heard and you want to contribute and have tips to share, follow us, DM us, tag us in your stories. We are a channel by parents, for parents, and really believe that unlocking that parent power is about sharing and exchanging our stories, our experiences, so that we can make better decisions for our kiddos. All right, have a great Friday
Thank
and a
you,
great
everyone.
weekend.
Happy
Bye,
Friday.
Esme. Take care.
Bye. See you soon.